Hello and welcome to the 7th video in a series on using the Windows version of the Raspberry Pi Foundation's Imager program. This video looks at the process of imaging the Raspberry Pi OS Lite, a version of the operating system that does not include a graphical user interface. So why would someone want to use a version of an operating system without a graphical user interface? There are two reasons for running the Pi this way. First, the operating system will use fewer system resources, specifically processor power and memory. When a computer has a graphical user interface, the computer needs to maintain the program that constructs the interface in its memory and periodically run processes to keep those programs active. Second, some applications don't require the Pi to interact with a human being. For example, if the Pi is controlling a robot, being used as a remote camera, or using a sensor to collect data, a human does not need to interact with the Pi. Thus, having a graphical user interface running does not help the computer do its job any easier or any faster. Before starting on the procedure to image a microSD card with the Raspberry Pi OS Lite, let's take a minute to review the materials that we will need to do this. The hardware and software necessary for imaging a copy of the Raspberry Pi OS are 1. A computer running Windows. The computer in this video uses Windows 8.1. 2. The Raspberry Pi Foundation's Imager program. A copy of the Raspberry Pi Imager is available at www.raspberrypi.org/downloads/. The link is available in the description below. If you want to see a video demonstrating the process of downloading and installing the Imager program, click on the card on the right side of the screen or click the link in the description below. 3. An internet connection. 4. A microSD card reader. The reader may be either built into the computer or an external device. In this tutorial, let's use an external microSD card reader. 5. A blank formatted microSD card. If you want to learn how to format or erase a microSD card using the Imager program, click on the card on the right-hand side of the video or click the link in the description below. Now that we have all the hardware and software for imaging the Raspberry Pi OS without its desktop, let's get started on learning the imaging process. The procedure for imaging a copy of the Raspberry Pi OS without its desktop is 1. Boot the computer and open the Raspberry Pi Imager program. Also, check to make sure that the computer is connected to the internet. 2. Insert the microSD card into the microSD card reader. 3. On the Imager window, locate the Choose OS button. 4. Click the Choose OS button. 5. On the list of images, locate the Raspberry Pi OS Other option. 6. Click the Raspberry Pi OS option. A list of Raspberry Pi OS images will appear. 7. On the list of Raspberry Pi OS images, locate the Raspberry Pi OS Lite image. 8. Click the Raspberry Pi OS Lite image. The program returns to the Raspberry Pi Imager window. 9. On the Raspberry Pi Imager window, locate the Choose SD card button. 10. Click the Choose SD card button. A list of SD card slots appears. 11. On the list of SD card slots, locate the one that contains the microSD card. 12. Click the SD card slot containing the microSD card. The program returns to the Raspberry Pi Imager window. 13. On the Raspberry Pi Imager window, locate the Write button. 14. On the Raspberry Pi Imager window, click the Write button. The process of imaging the microSD card may take several minutes depending upon the speed of the computer, the size of the image, and the microSD card. Let's speed up this process through the magic of video editing. If you want to cancel the process, click the Cancel Write button. After writing the image to the microSD card, the program will verify the image. Once again, let's speed up the process through the magic of video editing. If you want to cancel the verify process, click the Cancel Verify button. Once the program finishes verifying the image, the Write Successful window appears. The window displays a message indicating that the process is complete. The message also indicates that it's now safe to remove the microSD card from the card reader. 15. On the Write Success window, locate the Continue button. 16. On the Write Success window, click the Continue button. The microSD card is ready to insert into a Raspberry Pi. In this video, you learned how to image a version of the Raspberry Pi OS without its graphic user interface. First, the video reviewed the materials necessary to image it on a microSD card. Second, the video demonstrated the procedure for imaging the operating system by selecting the Raspberry Pi OS Lite image from the list of images, then selecting the microSD card from a list of microSD cards, and finally clicking the Write button. In the next and final video of the series looks at imaging the firmware recovery SD card for a Raspberry Pi 4. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to put them in the comments section below. Until the next video, best wishes.